I would like to introduce our next speaker, Elder Moraes, who is a developer advocate at Oracle. Actually, Elder is dedicated to help server-side developers to work on great projects by guiding them on how to build and deliver secure, available, and fast applications. With many years of Java enterprise development experience, he is an active participant of Jakarta EE discussions and also the author of Java EE8 cookbook. He's also the host of Java EE8, the Next Frontier videocast, and he has deep knowledge in about Java APIs and how to use them to solve real enterprise problem. Elder is passionate about Java and cloud and system architecture. As a developer advocate, he inspires crowds to adopt enterprise Java by sharing experience, best practices through online content. He is also participating in many international conferences like Java One, Code One, Oracle Code, TDC, QCon, Campus Party, then Vexus, and now GoTech World. So please give a warm welcome to Elder Moraes.
Good morning. Welcome and thank you for the GoTech World and thank you for all of you guys who are here today. I'm very honored to be here, very humbled because it's my first time to the east of the world. So I'm Brazilian, live in São Paulo, and as he said, I work for Oracle as a developer advocate. And today let's talk about how you can keep your service more available by monitoring its metrics. I'm going to show you in a second. So just to have a briefly base of what we are going to talk here today, we are going to use the approach that we are going to use in terms of service is a microservice way. Not because that I believe that you need to use microservice, whatever you intend to, but because it's a trending and it's better that we understand where we should and where we should not use it. As we are in the Java stage, I'm going to use the micro-profile approach to talk about microservice. Whoever heard about micro-profile? Okay, great. And as I work for Oracle, I will use Helidon to talk about micro-profile because micro-profile is a specification. And as usually, a specifications has some implementations, and Helidon is one of that. Okay? First, why microservice? Why should I care about microservice? Why should I use microservice? Should I use microservice anyway? The last speaker also used this law, this Conway's law, and I'm gonna mention again. Well, I believe that you guys already know, but just to remember here, Conway said that in the end of the day, the way that your company communicates inside, the way that your teams communicate will have a directly reflection on the way that you deliver software. How Mr. Conway discovered that in the first way? He was running a project back in the 70s where he had a team of 7 people and he has 2 projects to create compilers for 2 languages. If I remember, it's COBOL and ALGO. So he had one team of 3 people for writing a compiler for COBOL and another team of 4 people to write another compiler for ALGO. And in the end of the project, the team with 4 people, the compiler has 4 stages. And the team with 3 people, the compiler had 3 stages. And he thought, well, that's because the amount of people. And he ran this experimentation another times and again and again and again. And he always saw this law happening. So the way that the team was structured has a directly influence on the way that the people deliver the project. And another law that's also we have heard a lot of these days is the two pizzas rule. Whoever heard about the two pizzas rule? Okay, this rule says that no team, especially when working with microservices, should be big enough that you cannot feed the team with more than two pizzas. Okay, doesn't count if you eat two pizzas alone. Okay, so you cannot be just one guy in the team. So, but the concept here is that you should keep your team small in order to have more flexibility, to have more autonomously on the team, in order to have much more manageability on the team. And if we look into these two laws, the Conway's law and the two pizzas rule, we can see the same stuff, that they are not talking about technology. They are not talking about software. They are not talking about anything that is technical. They are talking about people. So microservice is a need in a way that if you need to scale your teams in that way, it will result in microservice, not the opposite. Sometimes when I go to some conference, and especially I remember right now, I was talking to a customer 1 month ago, 2 months ago, and he said, well, I want to do microservice. I want to move to microservice. And I asked why? And he said, just because I want to, because everyone is talking about it, and I want to do it. And I asked, well, how your team is organized? I have just one team do everything. So, man, you are not ready for microservice. And he was angry. Well, why I'm not ready? You said that I'm not competent. I'm not. No, because you don't have the need. Your teams are not distributed. Why you should distribute your application? Oh, because I want. Okay, so go ahead. Because once you add distribution on your application, and especially distribution on your team, you are just increasing your complexity. And it's okay if you need it, but if you don't need it, why you should do it? Okay? There's a very famous article from Martin Fowler. Some people, there's the URL on the end, you can try after. Some people said that this is the first time that microservice was ever defined by this article from Martin Fowler. And he used a lot of examples, and I bring two of them here. This first one, he's showing what he calls the silo functional team, where you have a UI specialist team, a middleware specialist team, a DBA specialist team. The natural output of this organization is UI delivered, is the middleware delivered, is the database delivered. So this is what we call the monoliths, okay? But if you organize your teams on a way that he called cross-functional teams, where you have in the same team people from UI, people from middleware, people from database, people from whatever you need, the natural output of this organization is deployments, is system applications that are built around capabilities, okay? Because everyone, the same teams is, is working on deliver self-contained applications, okay? So just to have a brief idea of microservice and why we should care about it. Okay, so why microprofile? I told you that we're going to talk about microservice, microprofile, and inheritance. So second, why microprofile? Just to have a quick history here about Java. So back in 1995, Java was created, and this and that, James Gosling and so on. Java was born with a just single platform, okay? And in the beginning, Java was intended to work on devices, especially on micro devices. Like 5 to 6 years after it was the first version, Java was organized on 3 distributions. So we had the Java SE, the standard edition, where we have the compiler, the core language, and so on, the core libraries. And we have the micro edition, where we had the libraries and all the features for micro devices like smart cards, televisions, and so on. And we have the enterprise edition, where we have the enterprise APIs and all the ecosystem around application servers and so on. And then, so from this arrangement around the Java architecture was born what was called Java EE, Java Enterprise Edition. And Java Enterprise Edition on 2017 was renamed to Jakarta EE. Why? It happened because on 2017, Oracle decided to transfer the property of Java EE to Eclipse Foundation to turn it in a project more open, where we can have more contribution and so on. Okay, but in 2015, 16, people on the Java community, on the Java industry, was first using Java EE on that time to build microservice. And they noticed that, well, okay, it works. We can do microservice using Java EE, but sometimes it's too heavy, because Java EE has a lot of stuff that we usually don't need for microservice. I used to see some application server using Java EE taking like 3 minutes, 4 minutes just to bootstrap. And it's not so good for a microservice approach, especially when you are intended to use containers, Kubernetes, and so on, when you have fast bootstrap, fast recovery, fast initialization, and so on. So, at that time, on Java EE, we had 2 profiles. We have the web profile, more intended to web development like GSP, servlets, and so on. And we had the this is web profile, and then we have the full profile, where we have messaging servers, and so on. So they decided to create another profile. There was the micro profile, okay? Micro profile was born based on Java EE, but it's not attached to Java EE. It not depends on Java EE. Actually, it was, in the end of the day, a model of fasting evolving of the platform. Because one complaining that users and the market and the industry has over Java EE is that it took too much to evolve. It took like 3 years, 4 years for a new version. And in our current stage of the industry, we cannot afford to have so much long to have a new version. So in a microprofile, they use it to test a new way to evolve the platform, and this way is now kind of being applied to Jakarta EE. So that's how microprofile was born. Okay, so we learned a little about microservice, about microprofile, so let's move now to metrics. Just a little water. Okay, so why we should care about metrics? Because, as I said, when you started to to break down your application in a lot of different single and smaller applications, you also increased the complexity. So you have a lot of more deployments that you need to take care of. You have a lot of service, a lot of features that you need to take care of. So now the metrics are even more important because you need to monitor what is happening in order to have your service available. So let's first understand why is metric. What is a metric? So metric is any measure that you use to evaluate, to control, and or to select quantitatively a person, a process, an event, or an institution. So why it's so important to be quantitative? Why it's so important to be concrete? Because it's something that you cannot have another interpretation. For example, we at Oracle, we have our boss, my boss, for example, we have a one-on-one meeting twice a year to understand the results, to make a review, we call review. So my boss could come to me and say, so Elder, you did great this year because your teamwork is good. You did good as a teamwork. You work well with your colleagues and so on. But another boss in the same period of time could have another interpretation because it's abstract. It's something that is so, it's very personal. It's almost an opinion because you don't have any concrete to talk about team working. But on the other hand, if the same boss comes to me and say, well, you had a target of bringing $1 million to the company and you brought $2 million. No question at all, because there are numbers. No one would question even if he had another boss in the same period of time, the evaluation should be the same because it was 1 and I brought 2. And if it was 1 and I brought half million, it's bad wherever is the boss. That's why we need metrics that are concrete when we are talking about service, especially microservice, because it should be something that we just look and understand what's happening. I won't cover here right now, but there is another concept, just for a quick briefly, that we call the business metric. Because today, it's so easy to get metrics, because you have a lot of storage, and you have a lot of tools, and you have a lot of ways to generate metrics, and sometimes we got lost because we have too much metrics and we don't know which metric we should evaluate. So usually you have the business metric. It's that metric that tells you how your user, how your client is experiencing your system right now. I saw an example from Netflix. They have a business metric that they call streams per second. It's how much streams they are able to open per second. So this metric for them tells the user experience. So that is the metric that you can put on the wall on a dashboard, and if something goes wrong, everyone run and try to solve, okay? And there is a relationship between metric and health check. Because health check, okay, is important to know if your service is alive or not. You ping the service and the service say, okay, I'm here, and you ping, you have no answer, so you should verify. But the metric will help you to qualify this health check. So, okay, my service is alive, but how it's going? How is the experience? How is the performance? How is the request amount that we have per second, for example? And to give you an idea of this, I brought the Rocky Balboa service. Who knows Rocky Balboa? Okay. Maybe the youngers don't know Rocky Balboa. But, okay. Here we have the Rocky Balboa. Okay. It's the same service. Here we have the 2 stages of the service. The first one, on your left side, is before the fight against Ivan Drago. Okay? And the second one is in the end of the fight against Ivan Drago. Okay? And in both cases, the service is alive. The health check said, okay, I'm here. And in the first case, we collect the metrics and he said some information. So the punch power is 100%, the bleeding is 0 milliliters per second, sight view is okay, 100%, sweating, just a little to shine on the picture. Self-confidence is 10, and speaking, it's okay. If you ask, what's your wife's name, he will answer Adrian, okay? No worries. 15 rounds against Ivan Drago. We collect again, okay, health check, okay, I'm alive. We collect the metrics, and the punch power is 0.5%, the bleeding is 100 milliliters per second. In 1 minute or two, he will have some problems. He can't see anything, he's sweating a lot. He has no self-confidence at all, and the speaking is over, okay? So, in the both cases, the service is alive. The health check is okay, I'm here. But in the second case, you don't know for how long it will be there, okay? So that's why it's so important to apply the metrics over the health check, so you can see the real state of your service. Okay, so let's understand how metrics works on a microprofile, okay? On microprofile, we have 3 types of metrics. We have the base, we have the vendor, and we have the application. Remember, I told you in the beginning that microprofile is a specification. And by being a specification, whatever, anyone that will create an implementation of microprofile should implement these 3, should implement at least the base implementation, the base metrics, because the base metrics, it's required by whatever implementation that we have. So in the base implementation, in the base metrics, we have 5 types of metrics: JVM, threads, thread pools, class loading, and SO. The vendor type is, well, okay, if you are a vendor and you created your own implementation of microprofile, you can put your metrics right there on vendor. So, but if you are a user and you are using some vendor implementation of some metric that was created by some vendor, knows that probably that metric will only work for that vendor, okay? So you should choose wisely. And the application type is that one that you, as a developer, will create on your application. So you are creating, you are programming, you are coding. So that's when you create some metric for your application, it will automatically go to the application type of metrics. And by default, microprofile gives you access to these metrics via REST API in 2 formats, JSON and Prometheus. And by just accessing these endpoints, you can see the metrics that your service is creating at that moment. We have some output formats that I'm going to show you right now. The first is the gauge JSON. It's the simplest one, where we just have a simple value of some object. The second one is a counter. It's supposed to count amount of requests and hit counts and so on. We also have the meter JSON format. It's a kind of count, but with more features, like mean rate, 1 mean rate, 5 mean rates, 15 mean rate. And we have also the histogram, much more information with percentile and so on. And this kind of count also. And we have the timer. It's kind of histogram, but for timed metrics, with also a lot of information about it. And all those formats we also have for Prometheus. I'm not going to show you. It's the same way, just to a different output. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about how you can code oriented geometrics by using microprofile. It's very, very simple by just using annotations. Okay, so for example, here we have a gauge metric. You just annotate your method, put your name or not. If you don't put your name, it's just to use the method name, and it will create a gauge right there. So we have this type of annotations. So the only difference is the gauge. The gauge only works for methods. So you just can annotate methods for gauge metrics. And the other one, the counter, for example, will count the request to the object. The gauge shows the values. The metered measures the request frequency on the object. And the timed will measure how much time the object leaves. Okay, so it will give you the stats around the life of an object. Okay, let's talk about Helidon. As I told you, again, microprofile is a specification. So we had a lot of implementation. There is Torntail from Red Hat. There is Open Liberty from IBM. And there is Payara Micro from Payara. And the Helidon from Oracle. So, Helidon.io, it's a set of APIs for developing microservices using Java. It's open source, what is cool, because you can contribute if you want. You can just download and use it as you want. And it has two different distributions. First one is a micro framework, and the second one is a microprofile implementation. What's the difference? Here you can have an idea. So here in the bottom, for have some comparisons, the Helidon SE is just like Javelin, Spark, and Micronaut. The Helidon MP, the microprofile, it's like Open Liberty, Payara, Torntail. And if you want a full stack, it's Spring Boot or Drop Wizard, and so on. The architecture of Helidon is built on top of Netty. Whoever uses Netty here? Okay, a few guys. So it's a very small framework for building basically client and server communications for cloud, microservice, and so on. So Helidon is built on top of Netty, and on Helidon SE you have three parts basically: web server, configuration, and security. And Helidon MP is built on top of SE by adding all the microprofile APIs. So JAX-RS, CGI, JSONP, configuration, and so on. And as the project is hosted by Oracle, we also have interface for cloud integrations. So I have seen implementations for Oracle, of course, but also for AWS, Azure, and others. To have an idea of the code, this is a code for Helidon SE. So you can see it's very kind of Java SE code, lambdas, and so on. And for Helidon MP, it's much more Java EE, Jakarta EE kind of code. Here, for example, is plain full JAX-RS code. So let me show you a little demonstration. On the back, you can see. It's okay? Okay. So I will just create in the first time two projects, one using Helidon SE, one using Helidon MEP, so you can have an idea of the difference, both of them. So you can create, for example, using a Maven archetype. Okay. So it will create the project for you. So it creates for you basically these two classes. This first one is the main, where it will create a web server for you. So it has a public static void main to start the server. You will do some configurations, and here we'll really start the server and create a local host and a port and a native point to serve the service for you. And the service code itself, it's this one. It's a plain Java SE code. So it's just implementing this interface, creating the service here defining the endpoints and the path and so on. I will show you a better example just to give you the difference between the two codes. Okay, so it's a plain Java SE code here. Okay, and to have an example of a microprofile project using Helidon, it's also using an archetype, and Helidon MP. Okay, and here we have the project. Let me open. So we have also the main. It's very likely the other one, just creating the server. But here in the resource where we have the service itself, it's a JAX-RS service on the end of the day. Okay, so we have the path, request scoped, and we have here HTTP methods for get and so on. Okay, I will show you another just another aspect here. It creates for you the Docker files so you can create containers right away. Okay, so you can run this service in a container right away. Okay, so let me show you a project that I've created with metrics so we can see it running. Let me begin with the MP. That's what we are talking today. Okay, awesome. So I have here the resource. So I created here a REST endpoint, and I have two different methods here. One that is annotated with a timed metric. It's a get HTTP method, and another noted with metered. So we have one getting metrics about timing and another getting metrics about frequency. So it's the difference of the different approach of each one. Okay. So let's run. So basically we will package no, sorry, ppmp. So it will package okay, and here we can just okay, and I can just get here this URL. Hope it's working. Okay, just to give you an idea, TDC is a big event in Brazil, and they have an open API, so we can use it for demos and so on. That's what I'm using here. So here I have the full list of all events from TDC, and here I can search for just one, and I can search for another, just to have some stats. And try another one that doesn't exist. Okay, and another one. Okay, so I'm using here, as I told you, I have an endpoint to just see my metrics. So here I have the full metrics that have been created for this service. It's a Prometheus format. I can see here the base metrics. I can see the vendor. The vendor, as I told you, is specifically for this vendor, so this metrics probably only exists for Helidon because it's from Oracle. And here, what's important for me, it's the metrics that I have created. So this is my metrics for this service. This is the metrics that I care. So for example, here I have the 4 requests counting for this service. Okay? Good. So, as I told you, I can create Docker containers using just the Docker file that was created by the project. So, for example, I can create here an image, appmp targets. Okay, it's creating a Docker image, and now I can create a container. So Docker run -d. Okay, and Docker loss. It's initializing. I changed the port for the container, so let me just here and 1. So the same servers, the same behavior. Okay, all working, and if I go to the metrics, okay, so I'll set. So let me show you the the SC code. Oops, sorry. So code pp sc. So I created the same metrics that I've done for microprofile implementation, but using the standard for actually the Helidon SC. So as I told you, there's no annotation because it's a Java SC. So the same metrics that I've created using annotation, I should create another way here. So basically what we need to do is register a metric registry using lambdas. So it's optional, so it's if present. And here I create the counter, give a name, and give incrementation on every calling. And on the timer, I have here also registering the metric registry, give a name for the timer, and here I time each call of these methods. Okay, so I'm creating using a much more functional approach of the code. Okay, so if I run this another code here, ppsc, vn clean, package, Java -jar target. Okay, just go there and exactly the same behavior, the same API, the same code, but written in another way. So here, okay, and we check the metrics. Okay, just the same metrics that we created but in different approaches. All right, so, oh, I forgot to show you just another possibility. You can here have, let me go to the MP. We can, because if you look to the code, to the files created here, no, not this one, sorry. Code. It creates for you a file, a YAML to deploy these servers on Kubernetes. So it's deployment YAML for Kubernetes. So if you would like to deploy it on Kubernetes, just Mozaf, target. Oh, it exists, okay. So I should remove first. Delete. Okay, and now it's creating on Kubernetes cluster. So it's by the first boilerplate on the project that was created, I run it locally, I run it on Docker container, and now I can run on Kubernetes. Okay?
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Alberto. I am a Java 8 developer. I want to think that I'm that. But it appears that I'm going away from GE due to the lure of Spring microservices, that is a kind of buzz. How easy is to convert your application from a Spring Boot to a microprofile? Is it that hard? Can be a translation approach between?
Okay.
If you want to go back to the GE, to go out of a provider.
Okay. Well, so the question is if we can and how easy it is to convert a project from Spring Boot to microprofile. And the answer is there is no directly way to convert, because the project was, because Spring Boot has its own way to implement stuff. There's some similarities between the JAX-RS approach and the way to create endpoints on Spring Boot, but there's no way to create a directly conversion. So depends on the way that you create your API. So if your API has a lot of business on the API itself, so maybe you have some more difficulties to convert. So, but if your API is just much more a facade for a back business, so it would be much more easier. So depends on the way that the project was built. Okay?
We have the API in microprofile and the backend with Java, with Spring annotations like repository and component.
Yeah, you can have.
They can live together.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because remember that Spring, even that it will follow a different path from the Java EE, you still need the Java EE server to run Spring. So Spring Boot can run by itself, but yes, you can. They can live together. I see no point to not live. Okay. Questions?
Kind reminder, you can also use my connector and scan the QR code which is displayed on the screen for questions. Or please, let's have some questions for Eldar.
Hi, I'm Tibi from NN.
Hello.
I'm an IT architect. What would be the advantages of using this type of profile in comparison with an API management tool?
Actually, you still need an API, because here is just a language and a tool. But the API management will give you the management properly. Okay, so this is not a way to get rid of all the management side. This is just the tool that the developer is using to code to create. All the management you can work with. Sorry, you still need to. So it's not. It will not invalidate your API management.
Yeah, but taking that into account, you will only have the JVM metrics, let's say how much time the class has lived until, I presume, until the garbage collection comes, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, but with an API metric, you get all that and also more, right?
Yes, you can. Okay, I understand. You can just leave the management side for your API management and all the metrics and the creation and all the business side on the micro profile. Just the way that you could do with a Spring Boot application or a Micronaut and so on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Eldar.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Big applause
Thank
for
you,
Eldar,
guys.
please.